Welcome back to WagerTalk TV. I'm Marco D'Angelo, joined in studio today with Tony Finn and Bryan Leonard. We're going to talk about, this is our continuing series, guys, our betting tips, and it's baseball betting tips. We're going to talk about starting pitchers and bullpens. When we get to bullpens, I might want to rant a little bit because, boy, it has been bad this year with bullpens. Bryan, I'm going to start with you. When you're sitting down looking at baseball, yes, the starting pitcher is the biggest part of the handicap, but as the seasons go by, it seems like he's becoming less and less. Used to be maybe 80% of your handicap back in the day when they used to let pitchers go. Not so much anymore. How do you attack pitchers in 2019?
Yeah, you have to really keep track of who's available in the bullpen and just anticipate what's going to happen in the game. Your pitchers used to go 7-8 innings. A lot, guys that used to pitch in complete games all the time. Anytime now that somebody throws a complete game, wow, look at that guy. But it doesn't happen anymore. So basically, you have to divide everything down. Most pitchers going about 5 innings, and it's just amazing to me. 2 games yesterday, as we taped this, they pulled a guy 1 out away from getting the win. That used to be sacrilegious. Now it's just part of the game. So your starters are going to go 5 innings for the most part. So you got 5 innings. And then you multiply that by his FIP or whatever. You try to get how many runs are they going to give up in that regard. And then you got the offenses, the other team you got to take into account. But then at that point, you have to take a look at what the bullpen does and just anticipate who's going to be brought in. Now, if it's a blowout, you're going to get the worst relief pitchers in the 5th, 6th innings, if that starter is even in there at that point. But if your closer, if your best pitchers were pitching the night before, you've got to look at that and you've got to say, okay, this guy's not coming in, this guy's not coming in. So at that point, you have to take your lesser guys that are going to get the options, so your chances of going over are different. So that's really what I look at.
Tony, looking to you with baseball and the starting pitchers. After the starter leaves, man, we got to turn it over to the bullpen, and it has been a crapshoot this year with baseball bullpens.
You said it when you said you'd like to rant. If it was just 3 of us sitting around having a beer, I would go on a profanity rant about bullpens. Now, and we need to be accountable for those, just like Bryan mentioned. Starters, when I sat down and looked at our shoot for today and what I should know, what I shouldn't know, I thought, let me look up the last time who we had, 10 complete games. Well, 1985, Bert Blyleven threw 25 complete games. In the National League, it's 1985, I'm 25 years old, but I'm younger than you guys. And Gooden threw 16 in the National League. That just doesn't happen now. I mean, if a guy throws a 6-inning quality start, that's pretty good. And then for weekend warriors who are not familiar, I mean, let's be honest. I talk to people all day long, every day, and they ask me, what is this opener scheme? And I said, well, if you don't have a reliable bullpen, why not start with your pedestrian arms for the first 2 and use your closer for those, not your closer, but your starter in the late innings, closer to the 9th inning. It's basically just a reversal of starting with your pitcher, the closer. Bullpens are, at this point in time of handicapping baseball, if you're going to be and for the purpose of this video, is to help others be self-handicappers. You better have some hours to spend. You better know what arms threw in the bullpen the night before. Is a manager, does he have trends where he uses the same bullpen guy 1, 2, 3 days in a row? You need to know all those things because you got 3 to 4 innings of a game that are solely dependent on bullpen. So I agree 100%. This is where we can get on our soapbox and say, listen, don't do it yourself. Yeah. Come to WagerTalk.
Bryan, last thing I'm going to throw to you with the bullpens and what the problem has been. Do you think that because of the changing of the guard with baseball and because we're automatic where, now guys going 5, pulling them out, you're getting the bullpens in there. What was so good about, the relief guys is you didn't always see these guys as much, so one of the angles I love is when a new guy comes up, makes his first start. It's an advantage for them, because the hitters haven't faced them. Well, with the bullpen guys, using them more and more and more, everybody gets more frequent with them. That's got to be hurting as well. Plus the fact that we're using them more, innings. So with anything else, they're going to break down. And I'm not sure if this is just the combination of that and also the openers, the way they're doing things, if that's making you spend a bullpen. Because we saw one series where Tampa Bay actually used their opener route for 3 games in a row. And normally you never saw that. They had, they didn't do that because it was a nice changeup. But when you're doing that 3 days in a row, you're getting the same guys in the mix. I think that's a disadvantage.
Yeah, it definitely is. You've got certain guys that are supposed to match up against certain other guys. Well, if they match up with them out of a 4-game series, 3 out of those 4 games, how is that going to help you? And we're getting back to the opener thing. The whole thing about the opener is your best hitters are at the top of the order. Your 1 through 5 guys are your best hitters. And what you want to do is throw in an opposite-handed pitcher. So if your original starter is supposed to be a lefty and they line up their entire batting order with righties, you throw a righty for the first inning or 2, and then you go through all their best hitters, and they're at the mismatch. And, if you take a look at the lefty-righty theory, obviously if you're going up against that, it helps the pitching staff. So I love the starters thing, other than a situation where the Angels, an hour before the game time, decide to, we're going with the starter today after you've already listed pitchers.
Yep. Yeah, and that's making a problem. What you're referring to is if you specified pitchers, it's canceling your bet. Where it's end up being the same thing. They just changed it a little bit on how they were doing first.
It's going to be a point. Dave Cohen talked about this. Eventually, it's going to be where everybody's just taking action.
Yes.
Yeah.
But what are you going to do?
That's the best way to get around it. Okay, guys. Hey, $2 Tuesday at WagerTalk. Every Tuesday, we pick one of the hottest cappers, and we offer their best bet. For how much? Just $2. It's a great way to introduce yourself to WagerTalk. Or if it's one of your guys that you've never used before, but you've always wanted to, what better time than to do it on $2 Tuesday? We'll be back with more here at WagerTalk TV.